Hi, I'm John Storms, and I am planning for power for my EFL Showstopper 46-inch Flake. Right here we have the lights running, and when I'm testing for power, I like to use the white ramp because that's the place where I'm going to see any kind of flickering. And also at bright white, it's also where I would pop a fuse. So this side is my side with 350 lights. And then this side is my side with 400 lights. And so these flakes take a total of 750 pixels. So I need to get power to all of them. So my strategy with these typically is I provide data from the controller and I provide power from a separate power supply. Okay, so for this, 750 pixels, and then we figure that they use about 0.045 amps per pixel. At 30% brightness, that comes out to a little over 10 amps. But in order to hit the frame rates that I want to hit with, and I use the Falcon F16 pixel controllers, I need to keep the number of pixels per port under 680. So 750 is too much. So I break it up into two ports. So doing it as evenly as possible. One side is 350, the other side is 400 because the strings come in strings of 50. So for the side that's going to be 350 pixels at 33% brightness, that comes out to 5.19 amps. And on the other side, it's 400 pixels, which comes out to almost 6 amps. Ideally, I like to keep these at about 5 or less, but we actually do it fairly often where we get over 5, and they do fine. So I suspect that my my 0.045 number might be off a little bit, but it gives me a little bit of breathing room. Anyway, and I'm not blowing any fuses. So on the power supplies, between the power supplies and the lights, I have 5 amp fuses, and I rarely blow one. So I think we'll be in just fine shape. So I actually tried this out already, and when I hooked up, especially on the side with 400, even though at 30% you should be good to go 200 pixels in either direction from the power injection point, I was seeing a little bit of flickering. Not much, but just a little bit. And I noticed that, things on the bench tend to do better than when they're on the house. So I figure if it's kind of on the edge, let's over engineer it just a little bit. So what I do is I add an extra power injection tee, and then I add power into the back end, and then I move the power injection point up. So I had the power injection point, after 200 pixels, because the power will flow both ways. So what I did is, since I have power coming into the end, I moved it into the 150. So I go 150 pixels, have a power injection point. Then I have the rest of the pixels, which is either 200 or 250 pixels. And then I have another power injection point. That seems to be working pretty well. So let's actually look at the lights. So for the test, I'm using a F16 V4. And then for my power supplies, I'm using, these are my old power supplies. And of course I have my power distribution boards from Falcon. These are the older ones. But there's not much to them, but they have the 5 amp fuses. Okay, let me shut these. When I run my test, I like to run them, especially the power test, I like to run them under realistic conditions. So I have a 20-foot cable going between the controller and the first pixel. I have a 10-foot cable going between my power injection point and the power supply, which is realistic for my display. And let me explain what's going on here with the two T's, right? So I have the power coming in right here from the power supply. And then here, it forks in two directions. One direction takes it to the end of the string. And I have a 5-foot extension there because that's probably what will be there. And then the other side of that fork goes into this other power injection T. And then this one is just in line with between the third and fourth string of lights, right? And so that way, even though it's one power injection point, I'm balancing it across the string So even though there's not any more power there, it's balanced out a little bit better, and I get better results. The other reason I like doing this, especially for new props, is it gives me a chance to, I test all my pixels when I get them, but it gives me a chance to double check them. And this one yesterday had a bad pixel, so I pulled that one out for a closer look. But this is how I prep for power, or plan for power, and this is for the EFL Designs Showstopper Flake, the 46-inch version. It looks like we're ready to go for the next step.